Hey everybody, welcome back to Champ and Sons and our NCAA coaching dynasty here with Bubba Champion as we are in the first off season of our Florida State Seminoles time here, and it was a disappointing end, not in terms of losing a bowl game. We absolutely destroyed Troy, right? But it was disappointing in the sense of going to the Birmingham Bowl. Now, we had some surprise coaching offers. I just wanted to look at those. And Georgia was definitely, a thought. It really was. But ended up just not being it for this year. Wasn't feeling it, so we are staying. Taking a look at how the playoffs ended up working out, it ended up being the number 6 seed Oregon versus number 8 seed Alabama in the national championship game. You see kind of where the playoffs are and how the ACC fared not very well, but it's okay. Things happen. So here we are looking at our off-season, getting it started with some of the final off-season recruiting. We've got 20 scholarships players for us right now, so we need to look to add some guys. I'm not looking to get 35, but I definitely need to look to start to add some players here. And one of the best things to do, let's go look at the transfer portal. And I'll say that this is one thing they definitely need to fix in 26. One, somebody look for 5-star portal players, all right, and not a single one. And I don't know how many players actually ended up transferring this year, but how many top-of-the-line athletes transferred this year. But there was a good, healthy number of them, let's be real. And I just think there should be more in the transfer portal. That's just my thought, but it is what it is. So we're looking to add in these final recruits, right? We've got a fair number of 5-star players and a really good number of 4-star, but I want to keep building on that, right? It's not enough to just be satisfied with that's it. There are some quality 3-star athletes out there. So they're not going to be your 5-star player. Even the gym athletes or recruits that you get, they're not going to be like the premier top of the line, but they are going to be very good players for you. And just because they're 3-star doesn't mean they can't be good players. Some of these guys have got a bunch of speed, so if speed is something you value, man, it's there. They have great catch in traffic and stuff like that. They have fine little pinpoint details to what they're good at that I think that translates over really well, right? So we can't be afraid to add them, but let's continue to focus on really building the core of quality team, which means your backup's not just good, he's just as good, right? So if someone does get hurt, someone does go out, we don't really miss a beat. So that's kind of what we have to do. Now, one of the tougher parts about the off-season recruiting is, one, the visits I think are stupid. I do schedule them. A part of me wants to believe that it has a true impact. I'm not exactly sure it does, but we go through the process. You can only do one. You can only have 4 recruits visit in a given week in the off season. Plus, we're only provided 4 weeks. If you've ever played this game or you've followed stuff on it, the computer sometimes for a CPU says like week 6, and it's like, that's kind of ridiculous. But okay, whatever. Take that for what it is. This final recruiting, I don't know. So a part of me thinks, yeah, maybe we haven't recruited these guys, right? Like, so maybe I haven't looked at them. But just general knowledge of these players, I mean, some of these guys are like Trey Zusevich. Trey Zusevich. He's a number 2 ranked player in his position as a center. He's the number 2. People would know about him, especially being a sophomore transfer. He should technically already be scouted. His scouting report should be there. In reality, I shouldn't have to waste points on him to do that, but we got to do it anyways. Let's go ahead and let's get him scouted. We know we're going to want him, so let's go ahead and sign him. Some of these guys, I will admit, I do think I think when it comes to recruiting in the offseason, it has them take too long to make a decision. Because I truly do think if you're one of these 3-star players, right? Yeah, like I said, maybe you're not the top, but you're pretty damn good. You're good enough that a school like Florida State is looking at you for a football scholarship. If you're that 3-star guy, you're not going to be going to University of Florida, to University of Miami. If a team like them offers you a scholarship, odds are they're going to take that thing in a damn heartbeat and accept it immediately. It's not going to be this, oh, well, we're going to drag it out until we get between week 3 and 4. Now, most of these guys, all these 3 stars right here that I'm offering, I'm willing to bet you. In a real-world type of scheme, being from Venice, Florida, 3-star, if he's not getting offered by Florida or Miami, if we offered him, he would take it in a heartbeat. But alas, we got to put in the 75 recruiting points. We got to let scouting happen. We got to let him decide he's interested in us. And we got to go through that whole process with him, which gets kind of annoying at times. But once again, it is what it is, right? I'm not going to lie. If you're a 5-star, 4.5-star program and you offer a 3-star, it should be like an automatic acceptance right there. Because how many other 4.5, 5-star schools are going to be offering that 3-star kid? Not many. Hardly any at all, actually, most likely. So that might be one thing for EA to look at. Is going to be the recruit, I guess, repository, whatever they have, the database repository for them. I don't know if it, I'd say provide more kind of variation amongst the guys. And one thing I also would say, if you're going to have an option like sway, so you have soft sell, hard sell, and sway. In reality, every hard sell, I've never found a 3-check combination in which a hard sell did not match. So a hard sell pitch does not match that. I think in reality, you should probably have soft sell pitches, hard sell pitches, and even the sway that all have different combinations of those, right? And the more you do it, the more it can unlock. So immediately, if I want to go into sway, it automatically opens up pretty much those 3 things I hit. If I got A ratings, whether he valued them or not, I made him value them. That would be nice to see. But instead, it gets kind of lackluster in that sense at times. And when you kind of figure out a pattern for the most part, and like I said, it's not 100% effective, but if you can be in the top 2 and get down to the top 3 selection, and you're still in the top 2, 1 or 2, if you go the hard sell, you're going to land that recruit most of the time. Not always. Just be perfectly clear, not always. But most of the time you will. So that's all we got to do with these guys. John Gideon here, I mean, he's a decent quarterback, got pretty good arm strength, especially for a 3-star recruit. I offered him. He should probably accept. He had a couple other offers, so I get it. But we are number 5, and he's already down to his top 5. So by the time he comes to top 3, if we're still alive and in it, and generally around number 2, and we do a hard sell for him, boom, we can actually jump over everybody else and go ahead and steal him. It doesn't always work that way, but it's possible. Now looking at one of our last recruits, Glenn Cumberland, 3-star transfer receiver, 92 release. I do like that for the deep balls. He doesn't have the greatest speed in the world, but he's got a good release off the ball. So whenever they are running that press coverage, he's got the capability to be able to get that additional step on him and kind of add some separation. So that's good to see there. So I do, one of my biggest things I do now is I'll go ahead and take a look and sort the list by player ranking. So not just their regular, where they rating wise or anything like that, but where they ranked as a recruit. Just separate it, sort those out from best rated to worst, top to bottom. You can figure out who your guys are. Now this guy, Kirk Pelshak, is a 2-star tight end. And if you looked at some of his stats, they were actually pretty decent. And the reason for that is he's ranked nationally the top 165 player. So he's got capability. You just don't see it all that much. And now we are starting to see some of these recruits. See, there is Zusevich. We jumped over someone. We were number 2 for him, but we were able to claim him in between weeks 1 and week 2. So we are able to get a lot of that stuff kind of done. Now we did lose Snow, a 4-star defensive back, bastard, and Torrance, an outside linebacker. Antonio Torrance. We didn't really want him anyway. They're a couple of damn losers, is what they were. So we're just kind of getting some of these last guys. Like I said, 35 isn't always what I want to do. So one thing it's time for with some of these guys, like Mr. Tam, Dallas Tam here, defensive end, we are in the top 3. We're still first. He hasn't solidified it, so we're going to do the hard sell. And we can always match it off with something else, whether it's DM the player, contact friends, family, stuff like that. Always got to finish off those points per player. So here we come in with the hard sell once again. And like I said, you see these combinations of where they check. I've never run into a situation where the players' check marks did not match one of those 3 combinations. I want them to have that. Update your database to where that is the case. Allow that kind of randomization to be in there. Make it so we would have to do a sway early on, and then we can go in with a pitch. Right? And in reality, most players are going to, their interest or motivations are going to be fairly obvious. It's not something that's super hidden when it comes to recruiting. I'd say after 1 week of recruiting, you should have all those marks, all of them. And so whether or not your combination, your pitch, match your pitch, those 3 highlighted areas match 3 check marks, depends on whether you can do a hard sell, a sway, what have you. But it would require a lot of updating in the databases and stuff like that. I understand that. I'm just saying it would be nice. Glenn Cumberland, our good old receiver buddy. Going to go ahead and kind of get a visit scheduled for him. And then Kirk Pelshak, our 2-star tight end that, like I said, turned out to be rated pretty damn well. We're going to get his visit scheduled. Now, he's just down to the top 5. We moved up into first on his interest board. So we're in the top 5. These guys, we're here in week number 2. I prefer to try to have most of these guys sealed up after this week. If we can. I'm not saying we're going to be able to, but if we can, try to get them sealed up this week, just because that'll make our life that much easier. I mean, we're going to have more than enough players, right? We're not going to have less than, I think the game requires a maximum of 85. We're not going to sit there and have less than that. Okay, so we will have to go through and cut people. But I'm kind of at a point here with our team that we know we got some talent. Let's build on some depth here. Let's try to get the best rated players we can, and if they can step up, train well, improve, and become the starter, more power to them. If not, at least we have some good depth. Donovan Lord, non-Jim, poor fella. No interest in us whatsoever. None. Cut me deep on that one, Lord. Cut me damn deep. But we're going to break this kid. We're going to get him. We go in, max points out. And really, I would also say, if you can do it, obviously max the points. The little clock indicator on the right side there, obviously max the points. If you can. If you can't, okay, be a little bit more decisive. But, man, if you got the capability, max that shit out on them. Once again, find a combination. Like that guy, like for him, we could use 80 points. Find a combination of recruiting stuff that matches it, and you hammer that thing home for them, so that way that they can, you can at least build some depth into your program, which is the main reason that we're looking at some of these guys as we go down this recruiting cycle. And I love whenever you hold over like the action you do, it gives a brief description. I love the social media one. Research the player's social media so you can learn more about them. 1, motivation upgrade or up arrow. A player wouldn't know that. A player wouldn't care. They wouldn't say, "Oh man, that guy looked at my Facebook. Hell yeah, I'm going to play for you, coach." It's not how that would work. Either way, beyond that rant, we have gotten some commits, as you can see. We've gotten, 5 of them. Pelshak, our tight end, by the way, did y'all notice? He did commit, finally. Took a couple weeks longer than what it should have. But we lost another player to Florida. Oh, they're giving us fits this go-around. That's a couple players they've taken from us. But we got a couple more guys here. We're looking at trying to get 32 total scholarship athletes. We need 3 more. Starting now, Donovan, Lord, Bowles, and then our last kid. So we're going to go ahead and move on. This should finish things up. Lord, out of Auburn, Alabama, signs with us. Steven Costello commits over to us, and we finish with the top 12, the 12th ranked class of recruits. Only 2 5-stars. That kind of hurt. This is our first offseason now, so I get it, but still, kind of hurt. So let's take a look at what our schedule is going to be right now. So we know later in the season we're going to play Florida, so we're going to start out here in these first couple games. Obviously, this will be the non-conference portion. And we're going to put Texas right back on there. They made me mad last season. We went into Austin, kicked the crap out of them. And you know what? I figured a home and home's the best way to do it, so let them come to Tallahassee this time. Austin to Tallahassee, not bad. And so we'll kick their butt wherever, but we're going to do it at our house this time. And so the other non-conference game, like Florida is going to be there. I'm not ever getting rid of that game. And you technically could, but no, I'm not going to. What I want to do is I want to add in an extra team, obviously, but one that's not going to be a pain in the butt. It's going to be needing a warm-up game, before we really jump into it. I want it to be kind of tough, but I also want to make sure that we're able to get stuff hammered out. We're going to have a lot of different things to go over in these first few games with our team that we've got. We've got a bunch of new kids coming in. Adams, our quarterback, was a senior. He's gone. So we're going to have new blood at quarterback. We're going to be setting a lot of stuff. I want to have basically, as I'm going to call it, a get it right game. And I figure, why not keep it in state? We're going to add FAU to the list of games. Both of those are going to be at home. That will actually give us, I think, 7 home games as I counted it. I think. It may just be 6. No, 7 home games, yeah. Our first 5 games of the season are at home. So, yeah, it's going to give us plenty of home games. But I think it's going to set us up really well for kicking the season off and then jumping straight into conference play, to where it's only broken up by the Florida game near the end of the season. And so it's going to be a tough year. We just need to get it off right. We just got to get ourselves proper first. That's going to be the hardest thing this season. Now, I want to look at the recruiting here to get this season number 2 started. Because last season, right, we went 10-3, so we had a 10-win season. Pretty good year. Made it to the Birmingham Bowl. Gotta love that. Took on Troy, kicked the crap out of them. Obliterated them. Which I think would garner us some interest, not just from the fact of a dominating bowl win, but for the fact that even after missing out on the playoffs, being ranked number 13, sent to Birmingham, Alabama, we stepped up and put a team down. So I think that would normally generate some interest as far as building a culture. That's a big thing. That's how we get through a lot, is by building a culture at our schools. So I think that would draw some interest, and it's kind of why, as we look at the recruiting for this season, we were really able to add in a good chunk of 5-star recruits, right? Now, obviously, it's one of those, well, are we going to get them all? Obviously not. But they actually have some interest in us, which can't really say that before. You know, last season, like I said, the 2 5-star recruits, the rest were all 4 and 3-star. You know, that's nice, that's lovely. But if you want to be a powerhouse program, you need the players in it. And so I wanted to add in as many 5-stars as we could, but I really also needed to look at players that we actually were interested in coming to our school. That's the biggest thing. Have them have an actual interest in coming to the school. Here, we got guys on here that do. We are, at least for the most part, some level of interest they have in attending our school. So I was able to get a lot of them added in, and so we're going to cut through some of these additions right here. Now, you'll notice I'm not going. I mean, obviously you can't do like the heavy point. You can only scout and offer scholarships at this stage. But at the same time, I'm not overloading our essentially our board with players. I mean, that's always one way to do it, but I'd prefer to be more pinpoint. And in reality, I know that when the season starts, I'm not going to have 1,100 recruiting points or hours to spend in a week. It's going to be, if I had to guess, probably like 800, maybe 900. Although I think probably 800 sounds better, sounds more appropriate. Hours. So when it comes to doing the actual recruiting of these players, knowing that some guys can get 80 points, some guys can get 75 or 70 or something. I want to be able to use all my points and max out as many players as I can in recruiting, so I have to limit those numbers. I wouldn't say it's pinpoint. If it was pinpoint, it's one of those you'd only have like a few on at a time, give or take. But I want to keep the number small enough that I can say, all right, we have enough points spread out between all of these guys. And because of that, we're able to actually recruit them, get the interest, and then get them to commit over to our school. So Quincy Egbo, Mr. Irrelevant, the last recruit on our board for right now, comes up as a gym 5-star corner. And he had the stats to prove it. Good Lord, coming out of scouting. He's a guy who's got potential to make an impact pretty much immediately. Not that he would, but he does definitely have that potential. And so that's something, like I said, always got to look for here, because some of these players can really surprise you. Yeah. All right, so I want to come through, and I need to add some 4-stars in. Mainly because, one, I know some of these 5-stars, some of that interest isn't going to pick up like I need, and so I'm going to have to drop them off. I need to keep my board not hammered full, but at least manageable to where I got a good variety of players. And so that's kind of what we're doing with adding these last few guys on here. A lot of them are 5-star recruits still. James Boyce, defensive tackle, speed rusher. You can see why we added this guy on. 85 overall, 76 pursuit. A defensive tackle, speed rush up the middle like that. That player can be a game changer. So that's why we had added him in. Right now we're looking at a total of 19 players so far. We've offered 14 of them scholarships. But we're continuing to look at getting these players on. And like I said, I think some of these guys are going to commit. And they'll commit sooner rather than later. So it's kind of this weird thing of maybe I can get... Oh, there it is. An automatic commit. Greg Hogan's cornerback, 4-star, has verbally committed to Florida State. Now, if only we can get more of them to do that. But so that's an instance of what I was talking about before. Yeah, that's a 4-star recruit. One is from Florida, but gets offered the opportunity to go without it missing a heartbeat. Boom. Yes, I'll do it. So take it for what it is. I think that needs to happen a little bit more often with some of these lower recruits, depending on your school. Now, Juan Strong, outside linebacker, but 57 zone coverage, 67 awareness. I'm pretty sure that's what kept him from being a 5-star recruit. That's why he was only a 4-star. But he's still worthy of building, and I think some of those other things we can train up for him. Now, Connor Tavares, 4-star athlete, run stopper, 88 acceleration, 82 tackle. He's going to be good coming off that edge. I know he's a run stopper, and he'll do fine there, but he's going to be really good doing that. So we got the last recruits added in, and let's take a look at our roster right now. Right now, Curtis Manningham and John Smith, those are going to be our starters, right? So we're looking at the depth chart. We're going to have to decide between them. Williams, he's an 80 overall junior. He's reached his peak. Sad to say he has. So it's going to either be, I think, Williams, Manningham, or Nielsen. One of these, or Manningham, or Nielsen, or John Smith. One of those freshmen are going to take over. It's going to be time for a new era in Florida State football to start, and we're going to start that this season. Okay. Fahoko, fullback. I figured he was a tight end, but no. All right. So looking at the wide receiver room, Nakua comes in, still has a 92 overall. Trey Burks is an 88. Rico Akuri, that we got in from the transfer portal, he comes in and he'll be starting out as our number 3 wide receiver. Our guys, I think one thing we've done good at is adding speed to the roster. If you look at these guys, Burks is 95, Akuri's 96, Nakua's 93. I think we've got a lot of stuff we can do in the passing game with players like that. It's just whether or not we're going to have the quarterback to be able to do it. That's the question. Zusevich, our number 2 tight end, did a lot to bring him into the school, but hey, your stats don't lie, your numbers don't lie. He is the number 2 guy on our team for that. So it is what it is. Looking at the offensive line, led by senior Shakir Allen, coming up as a 90 overall, 83 speed. Pretty solid player. Right guard is Ty Mama, 89 overall. But look at that speed, 95 speed. What in the hell? What is that about? Either way, let's take a look at the defensive line. Willie Jackson is going to spur the left edge, being that starting defensive end, 88 overall. He's got an 80 speed, pretty good rusher for us. But I think he'll do some good things coming off that edge. Same thing from the other side with Jackson. Now up the middle, it's going to be Hanneman and Olonilua start leading us up the gut. It's going to be those 2 guys. Hanneman didn't play all that much last season. Olonilua did, and he played fairly well. He really did. I think it's going to be exciting to see what he can do this year now. The whole season under his belt, especially with some of those guys we have coming off the edge to take up a lot of the blockers. It'll be interesting to see how Hanneman and our defensive line as a whole, everybody on there, see how they're able to operate while the outside edges are being focused on by the tackles. So now let's take a look at the middle linebacker area. That's where we're going to be hit the hardest. A lot of youngsters, a lot of freshmen, very poorly rated. It's going to be hard, but enough teams run a lot of different stuff. They may not see that much time out on the field because we're going to have so many defensive backs. And here's why we do. Williams, Agude, and Massey are 84, 84, and then 85 for Williams. Overall rating. Speed, 85, 88. Massey's got 98 speed, so that's going to help him. But outside of that, these other guys, it's going to be hard to stop the pass this year. Let's just say that. It is definitely going to be hard to stop the pass. Free safety, McNown is a pretty good guy to fill in there. Johnny Bridge will be stepping up in the strong safety position, a freshman. Starting them early, getting them out there. There's our kickers. So it's interesting to see how many freshmen we're going to have out there on the field. And what's funny is this season it's not a whole lot of them starting. It really isn't. Need a Ranger kick returner. You can't forget to do that. And I'll say this. When it comes to the kick returns, I don't really ever look at the overalls. I say, get my people kind of separated out. Personally, I just look for the speed. I need guys with speed who once they're out in the open, they're untouchable at that point. So that's kind of what I look for. But I'm also not going to put, like, for punt returner, Nakua's the number 2 guy. I'm not going to let him return punts, ever. No, he's my starting receiver. I need him there more than I need him returning punts. So I'm going to make sure that we're going to fix these depth charts and stuff to where for those kind of positions like punt returner and all that, our starters are protected while still getting some of the best talent out there. That's still going to be our focus for it. And that's why you see Dixon moving up with 99 speed to be the returner. So think about it like that. That's kind of how we're doing it. Third down back and power back. It really just kind of helps you mix stuff up since we don't have the the formation audibles or whatever they used to call it for whenever we could switch players in and out of different formations. Since they don't have that capability yet, going in through the depth chart and looking at your power back, third down back, so the running back field, you can actually get guys to switch it up. Because amazingly enough, with the formations throughout the game, one can go towards the other, so you can have the multiple back usage as long as you kind of learn what packages have which running back. So very, very possible to do in that sense. And so now looking at some of this other stuff on the depth chart, the sub linebackers, the rush defensive tackles, rush defensive ends, it's kind of one of those things where I want us, one, if it's a rush position, I'm going to have the most speed out there. I'm going to try to at least. Try to match speed with talent, but may not be able to do that completely. So just going to have to keep a watch on it. Now, after training results, John Smith is a 78, Williams is an 80, Manningham is a 78. So I did move John Smith up. I'm looking at deep accuracy, middle accuracy, and then short accuracy. And what's funny between our two freshmen, Manningham and John Smith, it is kind of funny to sit there and look at it to see how similar they really are. And where you start, the biggest differences that you're going to see are for a few different columns. So, like, for example, break tackles, a difference of 20. John Smith at 76, Manningham rated 56. So it's kind of crazy to see things like that, but it's just kind of the way it goes. Now that's how our team is shaped up. It's going to be an interesting year ahead of us. We'll get it started off with a game against Florida Atlantic, and then we will take on the Texas Longhorns in the next episode. Double game header. So can't wait for that thing to happen. Remember to hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it already, and give us a thumbs up if you did like this video. You're excited about the way the college football season happened and what is to come, whether it's spring football, which I truly cannot get behind. I've tried last year. I'm going to try it this year, but I just can't. Or give us a thumbs up if you're excited about college football being back in about 6 months. So it is what it is. Guys, I'll see y'all in the next episode. Thank y'all for joining us. So as always, everybody, stay safe and well. Y'all know how it goes from here, right? Later, y'all.